I want to talk about sales today. But if you're not in sales, please stick with me because what I learned at 14 applies to whatever you're trying to get better at. Now, it's not about information. Most people already have that. They've read the books, they've listened to the podcasts, they know what to say, how to present, how to follow up, how to listen. And yet they still struggle and they feel it. The opportunity presents itself and they completely miss it. And then they're left wondering why nothing they learn is working. And that's when self-doubt starts to creep in. And I've seen it happen to good people, to people who could really, really sell. The problem was they just didn't know what they were looking at when the moment arrived. So by the time we're done, I hope things will become just a little bit more clear and you'll be able to find the one thing that will do more for your career no matter what the field than any book ever written. And you'll realize that relationships are not a strategy, they're a way of life. And you'll know what sales actually requires. For me, it all started with getting suspended from school at 14 years old. And that suspension put me in a car with my dad for a whole week while he sold construction equipment in Western Colorado. Now, the reality is, I didn't want to be there, but today, I'm glad I was. All right, so picture this. I was in junior high, and it was a drama department production of some kind. Different groups performing different stuff. And the whole student body was in the auditorium because it was mandatory attendance or something like that. And our group was doing a lip sync to Mean Streets by Van Halen. And somebody threw out there, wouldn't it be cool if we set off fireworks during this? And I said, yeah, that would be awesome. Looking back, it is kind of strange how easy it was for us to get fireworks. And that probably should have been the first sign. Regardless, it worked. The place went nuts. Everybody on their feet, massive ovation. Nobody saw the fireworks coming. And I'm up there, full David Lee Roth mode. I got the long blonde wig, got the spandex, the wrestling shoes. When that guitar solo hits, we light the place up. And I remember thinking, so this is what it's like to be a rock star. And in fact, it went so well, I ended up in the local paper. And I've still got the clipping right here. And at the time, I was flying high. Everybody thought it was great, except Principal Bailey. And he wasn't amused. And later that day, I got called into the office and he started asking me questions, like if I thought about what could have happened, a fire, a packed auditorium, kids trapped, that kind of thing. And the truth is, I hadn't really thought about any of that. And honestly, why would I? And just like that, suspended for a week. And as you probably guessed, they called my parents. And as it turns out, my dad picked up the phone. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would have given anything for it to have been my mom. But they told him what happened, and I walked out of the office and waited. And I just stood there on the curb, feeling like a hitchhiker with nowhere to go. And then eventually I see him pull up, and he's in his company car, an ugly, yellow, orangish Chevy Cavalier. And my heart just sank. So he stops, I get in, and my head's down, and we drove for a while, and he didn't say a word. And then out of nowhere, he looks over and he says, well, that was pretty stupid. Looks like we're going to be spending some time together. And, at that moment, I actually thought that that was the worst part of it. And as it turns out, it wasn't. All right, so it's the next morning, and we're up before the sun. And I mean early, 4 o'clock in the morning early, maybe even earlier than that. And with no explanation, it's just, let's go. So instead of riding along, which is what I thought I was going to be doing, he has me driving. I mean, I'm like, keep in mind, I'm like 14, maybe 15. I'm not exactly supposed to be out there doing that. And I remember being super nervous about getting pulled over. I was going to go to jail or something. And he just said, if we get stopped, I'm going to tell him I'm teaching you to drive. So there I am driving on the back roads in Western Colorado. And this was way before the stuff that we have today. No computers, no cell phones, none of that. And he's over in the passenger seat and he's putting together his quotes. He's organizing all of his flyers. He's figuring out where we're going next. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was actually watching him work. All right, so we've been driving for a couple hours, right? And we pull up to this ranch in Meeker. Big barn, office off to the side. Place is beautiful. And I just assumed I was going to sit in the car while he went in. And I shut the car off, and he looks over at me and he says, if you're not going to be in school this week, you better be learning something. And so he hands me all his papers and says, come on, let's go. And I'm walking in behind him, and I'm like super nervous, right? Because I'm thinking that, what's he going to tell this guy? And why am I here? I mean, this punk ass kid. And I'm thinking I'm going to screw this all up for him, because this was no small deal for my dad. He was trying to close a deal on a big excavator. And I remember vividly the night before sitting on the floor while he walked me through every detail on the machine. So I walk in thinking that's what it's going to be about. And then we meet the guy inside, right? He's this big burly cowboy, sweat-stained Stetson, suspenders, denim shirt, dirty hands, that kind of thing. And the office was nicer than I expected for a working ranch. And he introduces me to the guy as his son. And he says, I'm riding along because I got in trouble. And he doesn't even hide it. And he looks at him, he says, the first place I thought to come was here. We've been doing business for a long time. You've built a great place here, a good business, good family. Who better to give him some real world advice? You got any for him? And the guy leans back, takes a second, and then he starts talking. And I'm going to be honest with you. I was expecting some old cowboy wisdom, that you hear around the campfire. But what I got was some of the most solid advice I've ever heard in my life. And it was, success is hard work, learning from failure, persistence. You're going to make mistakes every day. You're going to have setbacks. Just keep getting a little better every day. Learn something new every day. Don't ever stop. The minute you think you got it all figured out, that's when you're in trouble. And I just sat there listening, And my dad says this guy, and I won't forget it. He says, yeah, his mistake wasn't what he did. It was bad judgment and not thinking about how he could have affected other people. And the guy smiles a bit and leans back and goes, yeah, my boy's been known to lack a little judgment from time to time. That's just the truth about boys. But that's not the main reason you came up here. What do you have for me? Just like that, they're talking business. He needed a bigger machine, had to dig deeper, move faster, couldn't go down, no backup, tight timelines. That was a problem. And I'm sitting there waiting for my dad to start talking about the machine, everything that we talked about the night before. And he doesn't. He just says, last time I was here, we went through the specs. You already know it'll do what you need. And the real question is, something goes wrong, how are we going to take care of you? And that's where the conversation went. It wasn't about the machine. It was about the support. It was, my dad's service guys, the trucks, the parts, and how fast they were going to get to them if something actually broke. But the part that stuck with me is what my dad said to him. He said, more important than all that, you've got me. Even when you bought from other people, I kept coming around, and I'm here now. Something happens, I will be here to figure it out for you, just like I am today. And just like that, he asked the guy for the order. No hesitation, right then, right there. And the guy says, I appreciate you coming by, but those other guys have been taking care of us. And I'm going to have to think about it. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's it. It's over. Pack it up. We're heading home, right? And my dad just kind of stayed with it. He didn't get pushy. He didn't get awkward or anything. He just kept talking to the guy. And he kept talking to him about the times he'd come by before, even when he didn't get the sale from the guy, about learning about his operation, what actually mattered to him, and why the last deal didn't happen for my dad, and what he'd done differently since then. And he says to me, he goes, why would you think that changes after you buy this machine? And then nothing. It was just silence. Looking back at that moment now, it reminds me of something I heard years ago, but not, earlier than that. And that is, the last one talking is taking home the product. And in this case, it was 100% true. And after a very tense few minutes that felt like an eternity, the guy reaches across the desk and they shake hands and the order gets signed. And as we're walking out, this big burly guy pats my dad on the back, looks at me, and he says, listen to your dad, son. He's a good man. All right. Now, I told you that story so I could tell you this one. Sales is hard. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But that rancher and Meeker sitting behind that desk, sweat-stained Stetson, dirty hands, he told you exactly what it takes. He thought he was giving a delinquent kid some life advice. In reality, he was describing sales, and he didn't even know it. Hard work, learning from failure, persistence, overcoming setbacks, getting a little better every day, never stop. And the minute you think you got it all figured out, yeah, well, that's when you're in trouble. And that's not really life advice. That's the job every single day. But here's the other thing that happened in that room that you might have missed. My dad walked into that office with his suspended kid in tow, and he told that man exactly why I was there and still closed the deal. And that doesn't happen because of a good pitch. That doesn't happen because the machine was better than the competition. That happens because of years of showing up. Even when there was nothing to sell, even when he didn't get the order, he kept coming back, and that man knew it. Most people in sales think relationships are something you build to close a deal. My dad knew relationships are something you build so that when everything else is equal, and in a commodity business it usually is, the customer already knows who they want to do business with. That takes time. There are no shortcuts, and nobody teaches that in a seminar. And here's what else I noticed that week. Sometimes he didn't take me in with him because he knew some of those relationships were still developing. He was smart about it. He knew where he stood with people. That's something you don't read in a book either. But here's the thing that ties all of it together. And this isn't just about sales. This is about whatever you want to get better at. Any profession, any skill, anything. Most people are doing everything right. They're reading books. They're listening to podcasts. They're sitting through seminars. They're still missing something though, because you can read about what to do all day long, but until you've watched somebody do it and do it right in real time, when the stakes are real, you won't recognize the moment when it shows up in front of you. And it will show up. It always does. The question is whether you'll know what you're looking at. And that's what I learned that week watching my dad. And here's what I know. That person already exists in your life. Somebody who does what you do and does it well. So go find them. Ask them if you can watch them work. Ask them how they do what they do. They're not going to say no, trust me. And you want to know why? It's because people who are truly great at something, they desperately want to share it. They just never get asked. And when they try to offer it without being asked, it comes off preachy. So ask. You'll be surprised what happens when you do. And that's really what it comes down to. It was never about the information. You probably already have everything you need. The problem is recognizing the moment when it shows up. And you can't learn that from a book. You can't learn it from a podcast. And you can't learn it from a seminar. You learn it by watching somebody who actually knows what they're doing in real time when the stakes are real. That person is probably already in your life. You just haven't been paying attention until now. So don't wait for a suspension to make that happen, because you're probably too old for that now. I've talked to my dad about that week, and when I asked him about it, he swears up and down that he didn't set any of it up and that it wasn't planned at all. It was just a moment in time where I happened to be in the right place to learn the right lesson. That's according to him anyways. But everything I learned about sales, about people, about showing up even when you don't have to, I saw it firsthand in an ugly orangish yellow Chevy Cavalier on the back roads of Western Colorado. Okay, before I go, if any of this hit close to home, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a comment below. Tell me about a moment where you had the information, you knew what you were supposed to do, and you still missed it. Or maybe tell me about a time where you caught it just in time. Those stories, honestly, they help everybody that's watching. And if you got something out of this video, please share it with somebody who might need to hear it. Like it, subscribe if you want more, because it helps more people find the channel. I spent a long time knowing things I never get asked about. Most people don't think to ask, but you did. Thanks for stopping by, for what it's worth.